my quilting friends, Leah Day here with a special little tip video. I was asked recently, I think it was on one of my craftsy classes, how to quilt a intensely pieced quilt, something that has just lots of different pieces, really tiny piecing. And I thought about this a lot. This was about the closest example I have of something like this, and this really isn't even that great of an example. I don't do a lot of super intense piecing. It's just not something that I'm really fascinated by. But this hokey pokey crazy quilt was pretty close. And basically the question is, how do we quilt over a quilt that has really intense seams? So like right here, I've got a junction of 3 or 4 seam allowances in that one spot. So how do we quilt over this with the least amount of frustration? I mean, obviously those seam allowances are going to hit the bottom of our darning foot as we're quilting, and it could kind of throw off our stitches and that kind of thing. Well, the number one thing is, the tinier the pieces, the less likely I am going to be to stitch it in the ditch, mostly because it just gets more and more time consuming. I'm thinking in terms of like a pineapple quilt. That would be intense to sit there and stitch in the ditch every single little piece. So instead, I would aim to quilt this with like an all-over design, where I'd wiggle all over the quilting pattern instead. I'd also aim, as I'm doing that, to avoid the spots where the seams come together. So as I'm quilting, I'd kind of see a seam right there and go, oh, I'll just stitch around it. You know, you can get away with a lot of that. You can figure out ways of quilting around those areas of kind of intense seaming. Another thing that really helps, press your seam allowances open. It always reduces the bulk. It reduces the level, the height difference that you're going to have from the side of the seam that's completely flat and the side of the seam that's going to be big and bulky. Yes, I know that's a contentious thing to say to quilters. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to ruin my quilt by doing that. If you piece with a narrow seam stitch length, 1.5 millimeters or smaller, your piecing's going to be rock solid, and you can stitch right in the ditch and press your seam allowances open. So, hope you enjoyed these quick tips today. If you liked the video, of course, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the cool quilting tips coming out every week. Until next time, let's go quilt.